Right. I will go ahead and kick us off and get started. So, welcome to another live on a Thoughtful Thursday. I'm going to be doing these every 2 weeks, but it might be more consistent once the holidays are here. So, if we skip some during the holidays, don't worry about it. I'll be back once the new year begins. I'll probably have one or two more before the end of the year. So let's jump into it. I'm Rico Nasol. I'm a leadership coaching consultant, formerly executive at Zappos, Netflix, and Outschool. I am a husband, father of two, youngest of three, extrovert and introvert, father, creative leader coach is what I like to go by. All right. Welcome. I am glad you are all here. Thank you for taking the time out of your day. I know you'll be busy, but I'm glad you're here. And if you are here for the Crush Any Job Interview Authenticity Live, that's what you're in the right place. So feel free to get out a pad of paper and to take notes. To also participate in the session, there will be questions that I'm going to ask about. Um, and it'll be good to write these things down and to really reflect and refine them later. They don't need to be final drafts or anything like that, but we're going to be going through some good stuff. So make sure you get out a pen and paper. The things we're going to be talking about today, 4 buckets. So values. What are your values and why do they matter? Dream company. So, what kind of company will enrich and empower you in your life? And then getting into your personal narrative. Why do you do what you do and what makes you different? And then finally, asking powerful questions and getting the offer that you deserve. All right. So, those are the 4 things we're going to talk about. And we're just going to get into it now. So, values. What do you value? Um, and this should be, personal and professional. So, this is where you get your pen and pad out. So, definitely feel free to start to jot things down as I go through this list. So, values 3 to 5, don't get overly exhaustive. You probably think, "Oh, I have like 12 values." Really, just keep it to tight, 3 to 5. Personal and professional. And if you know me, they're one and the same. If you value family, then in your personal and professional life, you should value family. So if your professional life takes you away from your family, then you would be violating one of your values. That's an example. So should be one and the same. Write them down. Do you live them? Do you live your values? If you're not living your values now, one, can you, or do you have the wrong values? So, question to ask yourself. And how do you know you're living them? And then this is the ultimate lens that you're going to use for like this whole live, for this whole session. The values are really going to drive everything that you get out of this. It ultimately drives everything that you do in your life, right? Right. So what you value in your family and life, should be the same thing you value in friends and your workplace. And we can keep those worlds separate, but our values, if we're true to them, hold steady in any context. So, examples: family, impact, freedom, flexibility, travel, transparency, honesty, reliability, etc. It can show up in lots of ways. It's okay to make an exhaustive list and then you can call down later, but start to write down the things that you value. For me, family, impact, freedom. If you noticed on this slide, it was the first 3 taken from me. So these are the things that I value, right? So family, self-explanatory. I left jobs, highly compensated, high profile jobs because I chose family. I decided to be there for my family. And I will always choose my family over anything else. So self-explanatory. Impact. I want to create change for good anywhere and everywhere that I go. So whether it's for a company, a community, a person, my family, I want to impact people's lives. Even if it's one person's life, I want to have impact in someone's life in a positive way. So whether it's lifting them up, helping them get through a hard time, teaching them things that they weren't taught, or just asking them questions so they can discover the answers within them. Impact. And then finally, freedom. And this one has evolved over time. I used to have flexibility, travel, financial freedom, balance. And to me, that's really what freedom means to me. Like freedom manifests in all those other ways. So, freedom can afford you the ability to be flexible, to travel, to have balance. So, instead of having all like 5, I really said freedom is what I'm after and defined what freedom is for me. Now, these are mine, so this isn't for you to copy. If it resonates for you and you do like them, I'm not saying you can't, but what are the things that resonate with you? And this is just to give you an idea of what your value sets can look like. All right, now landing the dream job. First starts with what does your ideal day look like? And so on your pad of paper, draw a circle, write ideal in the middle, and then this kind of spectrum. And so ideal is like, this is going to be pretty straightforward, easy examples. Like I like to work out every morning at like 6:30, 7 o'clock. So I'd wake up every morning, 6:30, 7 o'clock. And like that's pretty much a deal breaker for me, right? Because I need the mental space that it's how I get my keep my mental health and physical health. Gives me alone time. It makes sure that I can live a long lasting life because I value family, so I can be there for my family. So you start to write the things that are ideal for you, um, and what your deal day looks like. For me, I won't work past 5. So if I was looking for a job and they said, "Oh, you got to work past 5," on occasion, it's okay. So that might be something that I'm more willing to concede on, but I'm not doing that every day, right? So on this spectrum, right, what your ideal day looks like, what your must-haves are, and what you're willing to concede on. Like if you need flexibility because you have a parent or a child that you need to take care of and stuff like that, so flexibility might be like a deal breaker for you. So start to map that out. Next, what does that company and role look like? What are the functions and duties? So, is it marketing? Is it engineering? Is it design? Like, what are the functions that you're really interested in? What industry is it in? Is it in ed tech, fintech, healthcare? Like, what industry resonates most with you or are you most passionate about? And then, what's the company size? A lot of people don't think about this company size. So, is it 5, 50, 500, 5,000? Ability to scale, the resourcing, a lot of the things are going to be different and those different size businesses. So if you're going to go for something that's 5 or 50, know that you're probably bootstrapped. You're probably the player coach kind of thing. You're leading the team, or maybe the only one that does that. Like maybe you're the only designer there. So you are the head of design, but you're also the one doing the work. So all those things matter. Values and culture. What are the values of the company you want to have? What kind of culture do you want to have? Do you like collaborative culture? Do you like uh, more individually focused culture? Do you like in hybrid, in office, remote? Like, what are the things you like about the company? What are the benefits? For me, for example, I like I said, I like travel, like flexibility. So I did not look at any companies that didn't have unlimited PTO because I don't do a good job of keeping track of PTO. I don't want to have to accrue hours and keep track of all that stuff. Will I have enough by the time my vacation comes up? It's just a lot to manage. I would much rather just say, like, hey, it's unlimited PTO. I'm responsible. I take like 2, 3 vacations a year. And so I don't want to have to worry about like having to plan that around when I get accrued weeks. So that's just something for me. And if I need to take a day off because I had young kids or something like that, I want to be able to do that. What's the salary range that you want? Right. And then what is the company not? Right. So it's as much to know what the things you want in a company to also know what the things you don't want in a company. So you should definitely write these things down. Hopefully you've been writing as we've been going, but it's important to write these things down. And then you start to think about the pros and cons. What are the pros of this industry, cons of that industry, things like that. All right. Next, we're going to get into your personal narrative. What do you do and why? Why is it important? So think of your career and what was the thing that you always focused on? And what was the reason you did what you did? So these are things that questions to ask yourself. What is your personal mission? What makes you different? How do you approach your work? What are you passionate about? What are you great at? And what do you not know? Right. So for me, for example, I have my personal narrative, but I really didn't have the words for it until later in my career. And I'm going to open this because it's getting dark. Much better. So I was looking at my time at Netflix and Zappos and the places I've been, and the personal narrative that I found and what I always understood my mindset to be, even though I wasn't conscious of it at the time, like while I was in the roles, but why I do what I do is because I want people to make educated decisions as quickly as possible. So at Zappos, when I created video descriptions, because I wanted customers to be able to see it on, have a more tangible way to see it move, see how it fits, things like that, so they can make educated decisions quicker. And lo and behold, it increased conversion rates, all the good stuff, right? Same thing at Netflix, creating these new experiences, these new promotional canvases, things like that is how can I get somebody to press play quick as soon as possible, right? Because we have so little time to tell somebody what something's about. So that is essentially been throughout my career. My personal narrative is having users make decisions as quickly as possible, educated decisions. Right. So why it's important is this is the energy you put into the world, and that it's the energy that you get back. So by understanding your personal narrative, this is your lens, it's your perspective, it's your authenticity, your inspiration, motivation, and your passion. And so one thing that really drove this home for me is I interviewed uh, somebody reached out to me. I'm not looking for a job, but somebody reached out to me. It was like in April or May after I left out school, and they were looking for a VP of creative operations, and it was for a online gaming ed tech company, and I do not have a gaming background. And so I spoke to the recruiter. I was like, "Yeah, I'm not really, um, I don't have a gaming background. You know, I built some of the early interaction models at Netflix for interactive titles, but by no means am I have a background in gaming. If you want someone that can create simple experiences to help people make quick decisions, and educated decisions, like I'm absolutely your person. I can do that, right? And if you want scalable solutions to go from 0 to 100 instead of 0 to 1, I am absolutely that person. But if you need somebody that needs interactive gaming experience, I am not that person. So I was super energetic and passionate about what I knew, and I was honest about what I didn't. Recruiter put me on to the C-suite that was hiring for the role. Same thing. I kind of said the same thing. The things that I'm good at. If you're looking for this kind of person, I'm absolutely that. But if you're looking for this, and you're not, then I'm not. And just being honest and transparent and authentic to who I am, right? Because if they wanted someone that needed interactive gaming experience, and I told them I had some, and I didn't, how hard would it be for me once I stepped into that role? Plus, by being authentic to myself and being honest about what I know and what I don't know, it gives them an idea of what it's like to work with me. I'm a straight shooter. I'm going to be transparent. I'm going to be honest. So these are the things that are important about why authenticity and being true to yourself is important in an interview. So, needless to say, I didn't take the role. They asked me if I was sure if I didn't want to take the role. I said, "Yeah, I'm not really looking for a job right now. I'm focusing on creating impact in other ways." And so they kept my information, and every once in a while they'll give me a call. But that being said, that's why it is important to know your strength, know your why, have a personal narrative, and be honest about what you are and what you aren't. And this is how you'll make the interviewer or the other person feel better storytelling, more excited, more vulnerable because you're being honest, you're more transparent, you're authentic. And it gives them, like I said earlier, a preview of what it's like to work with you. So if you're going to be honest and transparent in the interview, most likely that's what it's like to work with you. And you can answer any questions. And notice I don't have in this live a section about how to answer questions. If you truly own and live your values, if you own and live your mission, and if you own and live this personal narrative, there is no question that you cannot answer. There's no question that they can ask you where you'll get stuck because you can answer with transparency, honesty, and authenticity. And dare I say, even passion for the things that you don't know, right? I'm passionate about that I don't know interactive gaming. And if they wanted me because I didn't and I was honest about that, then great. And this is something that I did want to include, um, because I think this is how I also am successful in a lot of these interviews and when recruiters call me, is people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Love this quote by Maya Angelou. And imagine how many people a recruiter, hiring manager is talking to every day. If they're hiring for a role, there's some roles I saw a role on Netflix that like 6,000 applicants. Can you imagine how many people the hiring manager is talking to? And so, how can you make yourself stick out of the maybe 10 to 20 people they spoke to that day? Well, this is a way to do it, like really being passionate and excited about the things you know and things you don't know. They'll remember you being the honest, transparent, passionate one and the one that's excited. One thing you should never do, and you should never be looking to say what they want to hear. Be yourself. The moment you aren't true to yourself, then all of that stuff has to become true. So if I said, "Oh yeah, I have experience in interactive gaming," all of a sudden I would need to be expert in interactive gaming, which I wasn't. Now do I have to do to become an expert in that? It's just not worth the hassle. It's not worth the time, and that will make that experience in that company not a good one. And I wouldn't want to set myself up for failure that way, right? You always want to be setting yourself up for success. And we'll get more into this in the next section. But if they don't like what you have to say or your perspective, do you want to work there? Is that a place you want to be? And remember, you're interviewing them just as much, if not more, than they are interviewing you. We spend a third of our lives at work, right? Some spend more. Some people who work like 60, 70 hours a week spend more. Do you have that kind of time to spend at a place you don't enjoy? All right, getting into the last section, powerful questions. So, the dreaded dun dun dun. What questions do you have for me? Right? We all like, oh, I hate that. Well, it happens, right? Oops, wrong way. Uh, so these are all decent questions, and I'm not saying do not ask these. Ask these questions for sure, because many of these questions will give you the context of like the actual work situation you're walking into. So, like, what does success look like? What are the current challenges? What does the organization look like, etc. You can Google and find a lot of these questions, and they're good questions, but cater them to the company you're speaking to, and pick out the ones that are most meaningful to you. But do these questions actually help you decide if this is where you want to spend a third of your life and for how many years? What do you really want to know? So what do you really want to know? And I work with so many people right now in my coaching practice that are in toxic environments and they hate it, but they also feel stuck. And you don't want that feeling. If you can avoid that at the interview, you don't want to take a job just to be thrown into a toxic environment, knowing that the environment was toxic. So you don't want that feeling. So, what are the questions that you really want to ask? And not saying that you ask these instead of those other ones, you have to balance it out, right? So, here we go. Now, these are the questions that we really want to know. And, there's other things that you in here that you want to know, right? What is the culture really like? Is there really work-life balance? Do people really live the values? And there's more. This will all depend on, like in the last section, what are the things that are important to you? Ask about that. If unlimited PTO is important to you, ask about that. If the salary range is important to you, ask about that, right? And always do your research on the people you're meeting with. It's easy nowadays with LinkedIn. Like, know where they were before, how long they've been there, and use that to get your real questions answered. So, for example, hey, I saw you've been here for the last 18 months. What surprises have you experienced so far? And don't lead them. Don't say, "Oh, what have the pleasant surprises been this so far?" Right? Because if you lead them, you might not get the authentic answer. If you just say, "Hey, what are some of the surprises you've experienced so far?" If they lead with negative challenges, that'll give you a clue that, maybe it's not all that they're making it out to be. And also another tip, don't underestimate speaking to the receptionist, the recruiting coordinator, some of the folks that maybe you're not that you come in contact with, but you're not maybe scheduled to talk to, folks that aren't on your panel. Get their thoughts, ask them some of these questions because they are usually closer to the culture, the true culture of the business. They're like the boots on the ground, right? They're not saying the company line. They're really going to tell you what it's like from their perspective. So don't miss out on opportunities to ask folks that kind of question. It could be gold. I've turned down offers because of it. So, what if people ask me this in the sessions? What if I offend the hiring manager? What if the questions I ask are too sensitive? Um, what if I don't ask for what I want? What if I don't like what I hear? How do those things sound? I'm going to read them again. How do they sound back to you? What if I offend the hiring manager? What if the questions I ask are too sensitive? What if I don't ask for what I want? What if I don't like what I hear? If any of this seems hard and you don't like what you hear, what would it be like to work there? If you asked for what you wanted and they get offended, how hard would it be once you're there and hired to ask for what you want? So, this is really where you make the decision if this is the place for you or not, and to ask for what you want. You have value and you are worth whatever you feel you are worth. So don't sell yourself short. Ask for what you want. Get the questions answered. Right. So that's it. I mean, we could go all day long and talk about this, but that is a good foundation for how to crush your interview and actually get the job you want. Right. So remember, know your values, live them, own them. Understand what dream company you want to look. What does it look like? What's your ideal day look like? What are the values, the benefits, etc. of that company? What's your personal narrative? What makes you different? What is going to get you and the interviewer, the hiring manager, excited about working together? And then ask powerful questions. If you don't ask for what you want, you may not get it, right? The things I would say if you're nervous or scared or whatever about asking these questions, what do you have to gain versus what do you have to lose? If you have to gain 50,000 more because you think that's what you're worth, or isn't it worth asking the question? If they say no, do you really want to work for someone who undervalues you from the beginning? All right. To be continued. I'll have a probably some sort of resource on this that I'll share. But if you missed last live, if you if you're dealing with imposter syndrome, fear of doubt, self-doubt, negative self-talk, go to riconasol.com/leaders, grab the resource there. It's a free journal. Doesn't cost you anything. It'll help you understand what you're feeling, when you're feeling, etc. And normally I've opened up for questions, but I'm running short on time today. So if you do have any questions, hit me up on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram, YouTube comments too. All right, I'll hope you got some value out of this. Take care. I'll see you next time.